Is there anything good about a spanking? I know I didn't think so as a child, but now looking back, I'm really glad my parents spanked me when I needed it. Today, we are going to tackle perhaps the most controversial parenting issue there is. Should a parent ever spank their child? Now, this is our Gospel and Everyday Life series, so the most important thing we have to look at is not my opinion or your opinion or even public opinion, but rather what God says about this topic. Proverbs 22:15 says that folly or foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline will drive it far from him. Whatever opinion you may have on the issue of spanking, God tells us that when used properly, it can have a significant role in driving foolishness out of a child. Here are 5 key points to consider. Number 1, spanking should never be done in anger. As a parent, if your child does something that requires discipline, but inside yourself you sense anger rising up, there must be a cooling off period for you as the parent. And so I suggest that you send your child to his or her room so that you can pray and collect yourself before handing down any type of discipline to your child. Number 2, spanking should be done in private. The goal is not to humiliate your child. The goal is to have a part in your child's heart transformation. Number 3, spanking is most effective with children in the early years. Other methods of discipline may be used as well, but when children are younger, spanking is the swiftest way to help the child understand that he or she has stepped outside of God's authority. Number 4, spanking is not for the convenience and comfort of the parent. Spanking should never be used as a means to control a child so that the parent's life is easier. And number 5, spanking should only be used when rebellion is involved. You should not spank a child for an accident or for childish behavior. Rather, a spanking is appropriate for small children when they rebel against the authority of their parents. Parents must understand that if this behavior goes unchecked, the child will think he or she has become the authority in the house. So here's an example. What does this look like in real life? Johnny is playing with his toys, and Mom says, "It's time to clean up. We're going to get ready for bed," to which Johnny replies, "I don't want to," and continues playing with his toys. Now, early on, before a spanking is given, a parent does need to make sure the child understands what is expected and that the consequence for disobedience, for rebellion, will be a spanking. By doing that, you have adequately prepared your child to know what he is getting into. So Mom says to Johnny, "You know, Johnny, when I tell you to pick up your toys, I expect you to do that as soon as I tell you. God has put Mommy in charge of you, and I am going to help you learn what it means to obey. So if you don't pick up your toys, Mommy will have to spank you." Of course, Johnny, small child, sin nature, selfish like we are, is going to test the waters. Who's really in charge here? And so he ignores Mom and keeps on playing with his toys. You see, this is not about the spanking. This is about Johnny understanding how to come under authority, human authority, and ultimately God's authority. And so Johnny's mom, wanting him to be protected, wanting him to understand God's plan, moves Johnny away from his toys. Of course, Johnny is crying and pulling on Mom's heartstrings. After all, we all want our children to be happy. But more important than your child's happiness is his holiness, the transformation of his heart to become more like Christ. And so Mom takes Johnny to a private area, looks him in the eye, and explains that what he has done is disobedience. You want the child to have a connection between what he did and the consequences that are following. Mom then administers the spanking, keeping in mind the big picture that you are disciplining your child because you want to be a part of his heart transformation. After several swats on the bottom, Mom then hugs Johnny, lets him know that she loves him, and then prays with him. There are certainly other forms of discipline that can be used, but I have found that in the early years, when it is absolutely essential for a child to learn this lesson, that he or she is under authority, a spanking is the simplest and swiftest way to help the child learn this lesson. And that is the gospel in everyday life.